Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. Actually, this is going to be a video series. I plan on the next few videos covering a very complicated topic, and that is designing and building filters for your aquariums. I do realize there are a lot of people out there have very entrenched ideas about what are good filters, what are bad filters, and of course there's a trend now for doing a lot of filterless aquariums or natural aquariums, that sort of thing. I'm going to try and cover it all. I mean, I do have a fair amount of experience dealing with these sorts of things. I have, over the last few decades, built and or maintained pretty much every filter there is, and I hope to share some of my experiences with you. Now, that doesn't mean I know everything. I certainly don't, because I still experiment around with different types of filters, as you can see, and there are pros and cons to pretty much everything, and I'm going to do my best to try and cover a fair amount of that. Now, obviously, I'm not going to cover everything because it's not possible. If you have questions, definitely leave them in the comment section. I will try and get to them as this series progresses. And I did have one comment already that I'm going to try and get to here shortly, and that is someone wanted to know about my barrel sump and how I set it all up. And here it is here. This is a very straightforward filter. It is a barrel. It's got a bunch of coral in it in this particular case because usually I keep guppies in this system, and I've never cleaned it. I never will have to clean it, and it is very, very straightforward. And that's actually one of the nice things about sumps, trickle filters, that sort of thing in general. I've built a great many of them for a lot of clients over the years, and they are an extremely versatile filter because, first off, they have a lot of room in them. So you can do all sorts of different things in those, not all that space. And again, it is one of those things that can be used in a lot of situations. It's not best for everything. Otherwise, I would have, well, every one of my aquariums on a sump. I do have two currently running in my fish room. One that's running my two African cichlid tanks, and one overhead one that I put together as a test to see how that's going to work out, and it's doing very well so far. The problem with sumps, and the reason why I don't use them for all my aquariums, is because, well, they require a pump for every single one that you want to run. And that's an awful lot of electricity to burn, and I don't really want to do that. The reason why a little bit of history here. My fish room originally, when I first built it, there was 3 racks, and each of them ran off a central sump. And that has certain advantages in the sense I only have 3 or 4 pumps running, and they all go to one sump, which is easy to have an overflow for, and of course easy to do water changes. I've done videos on that, so you can always just watch those if you're interested. The problem with it is, in those days I used to do an awful lot of importing, and what would happen is if you have an issue with one tank, a disease or whatever, you'd have to shut that one off, and of course you'd have to maintain the biological activity in a number of additional filters, so you can shut off one of the tanks and put that on it. It was fine for a while, but the problem again is all the chemistry is going to be the same in each of those setups. And if you want to raise a great variety of things, they're not all compatible. They don't all have to want the same water, especially for breeding purposes. So I started getting away from that and going to air-driven systems, and that is also because it burns an awful lot less electricity, and that's great. And each tank is separate. Of course, that has disadvantages too. We're going to get to all that as we go along here. But in preference, in general, I prefer separate aquariums, and there are a great many ways of filtering those aquariums. So, like I said, I'm going to get to all that as we go along through here. So what I'm doing here is I am assembling just the box part for 4 filters. They're all going to be the same. I have a new design I want to try out, and I usually build at least 3 or 4 of something, mostly because I can do this, which is assembly lining it. And before I get a comment in the comment section as to what I'm using to join my acrylic together, it's called methylene chloride, and it's not a glue, it is a weld. It melts both sides of the joint and then evaporates and leaves a weld, which is really cool. It's very strong, and it's great for this sort of filtration. The reason why I use this over Weldon or any of the other possible ways of doing this, as you can see how fast it is. This is at 2 times speed, but as you see, it doesn't take any length of time for it to set up. The entire build process for this particular section of this build was only about 20 minutes, so it's quite quick. But as this progresses, especially near the end of this video, you're going to see there's a great many bits and pieces that go together to making a filter. Now, I've built a whole pile of these over the years, and I do have a lot of videos up about it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about this process. But the reason why I like box filters is because of the design of these particular ones and the fact that I have a number of different chambers, and I can put different media in it and have different results. And also these are going to have a separate style for the high humidity planters, which I really like, and that's going to make for hopefully a really good filtration system. So we'll see as that progresses. I probably should address this because there's a big trend at the moment for people to use dirted aquariums, and there's nothing wrong with them, dirted aquariums. I've made them, I've used them. If you think it's going to completely eliminate your necessity for maintenance, well, you're wrong about that, because almost every dirted aquarium requires a lot of plants, and those plants, if you're doing your job right, are going to grow and do well. And then of course they require pruning, moving things around, and making sure nothing overtakes the tank, all those sorts of things. And I find pruning is probably the thing I spend the most time on. I mean, I can grow a ton of plants, and every month I throw out a bucket full of them because, well, they grow really well. So anyway, the other problem I find with with dirted aquariums is they have one small problem, in the sense that once you have that dirt in there, the cap on it, and the plant's planted, you can't put certain fish in it because, well, one problem is anything that digs will dig into there and it causes issues. The other problem, of course, is you are using up roughly about 25% of your aquarium volume just with the dirt and the cap, because they do need a fair amount of depth on that, and I don't prefer to do that. I prefer to use the high humidity planters, which basically supplies the same sort of thing, because it's an awful lot of plants in a specific area and they grow really well. And of course I do agree with the part where you have a great many different invertebrates in your aquariums, because you'll notice that in all my videos. I've been growing all kinds of things for a very long time, and I think that's an amazing way of, first off, balancing out the chemistry in the tank as far as removing any kind of extra food that might be in there, any other kind of detritus. Even if a small fish dies, you don't notice it. The little critters that are in there will, and they'll deal with that, and it is actually a very good way of keeping everything trimmed down nicely. So, like I said, dirted aquariums, they're fine. I have made a few, and the problem with my reason why I don't do them, besides losing a chunk of your aquarium, is clients tend not to want the same thing for a long period of time. And once you have to change that system for somebody, it is a great deal of work. And it also, of course, means you have to restart the whole thing all over again. Hence, I use compartmentalized planters. I put a lot of plants in small areas that have dirt in them. They have a cap on them, but I can remove one, I can grow a new one. I don't have to change the entire aquarium, so I prefer doing it that way. But there's literally nothing wrong with them, except one small thing. If you're going to go to rely on these, filters do one thing, and they do one thing really, really well, and that's all filters, is they are a cushion. They are a buffer for things that you might end up doing wrong. So if you overfeed or anything along those lines, filters are great at taking care of that extra bit of pollution, and that's what they're for. If you have a great deal of experience, you can get around those issues, of course, but if you don't, keep in mind that if some mistake is made at some point in time, that's what those filters are for. They will prevent, hopefully, at least small case issues where something might be going wrong. And the other reason why I prefer doing small water changes and that sort of thing, I mean, most of my systems don't require, I mean, you've seen my fish room, you've watched my videos, my water change system is very easy to use, but I still don't really want to do it all the time. And plants are really great for that, and I still, of course, as you notice here, because I'm making the filters, I do prefer filtered systems. It's just the way I am. And these I'm calling box filters, but they really aren't purely box filters. They are combination filters, but there's no real name for them because I'm building them. These are, for all intents and purposes, part undergravel filter, part box filter, part fine particulate matter filters. Obviously they're biological filters, and because they are going to go up to high humidity planters, there's a nice biological aspect there as well. There, a long-winded way of introducing this topic. There's obviously a great many more things to do. There's so many different styles of filters. There's Hobbs, power filters, canister filters, various kinds of plenums, anaerobic filters, all sorts of stuff. If you have a very specific filtration system you're interested in seeing, definitely leave a comment, because I'm going to miss stuff, and I'm trying to get as much of this in as possible. But as you can see, even just talking about one thing, which was sumps and trickle filters, it took up, well, we're going on 12 minutes now. So like I said, we're going to try and cover everything. Leave comments, let me know. And like I said, these are going to be box filters. Heavy quotes around that. But anyway, there's going to be a great many parts going into this. And as I build this, I'm going to explain why I'm doing specific things with this. This part is just, they're just boxes. That's all there is to it. And like I said, they're very easy to put together. So one of the things I did for this, because I have to drill an awful lot of holes, is I built this template. I'm going to leave a link to the other channel I have for how I made this and the reasons why I made it. But, well, the reason is going to be very straightforward in a second. It allows me to drill repetitive holes without having to set anything up once I've done the first setup. And this was going to sit in here like this, and I'm going to drill a whole pile. These are the lids, so there's going to be a whole pile of holes to allow the water to go through. This main central one is for the lift stack, and the last clip is going to be just a brief little bit of drilling all the little holes, which you're going to see more of as this video series progresses. So anyway, yeah, definitely if you're interested in building these sorts of things, templates are very, very useful. So that's one hole, and then like I said, I'm going to move over to drilling a bunch of little holes. And the nice thing about this, the way I designed this, is reversible, and I can do a whole pile of things at once. So there's 4 I'm drilling here all at once. So thanks very much for putting up my rambling. Leave comments, let me know what you think about things, and I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.